Greetings, salutations, and good now. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kevis Major, doing it major. And welcome, one and all, to our weekly forecast for this week, the 29th of June, up until around the 5th or 6th of July. Now, yesterday I made a video. First off, guys, how do I sound? I probably sound like shit. It was the dream weekend here on St. Kitts, on the island of St. Kitts. That's what I like to call it. It was the St. Kitts Music Festival weekend. And so for the past 3-4 days, nights, we've been, you know, celebrating our culture, our music through festival. And it was amazing. We had a lot of international stars on the island. I don't want to get too much into that, but just letting you guys know why I sound so rough. Okay, now we are experiencing a lovely full moon in Capricorn. However, it's not lovely for everyone. I was just looking at some news articles. There was some boat transporting people probably from St. Kitts to Nevis, and the boat sunk or capsized. I mean, talk about full moon, right? Like mood, moon, emotions, feelings, water, filling a container to the point where it's over full and flooding over. And I'm sure when they do the investigations, well, let me don't say I'm sure because I don't want to put my neck on a block. But I just have a hunch when they do the investigation as to, the cause of the accident. Somebody didn't do their duties, their obligations, and responsibilities. And that's the type of crash out, that could happen during a full moon. It could happen anytime, but we know during the full moon that things have a funny way of manifesting or materializing, right? Especially things that were sort of building up, were leading up to that kind of climax, right? And so, just to use this example again, all of the people have been, enjoying and celebrating and being so passionate and all riled up from the music and the festivities. We were all giving our emotions to the moon, and now, at the climax of the lunation cycle, some crazy stuff like this happened. I don't know, synchronicities, coincidence, fate, destiny. That's another conversation that I'm interested in diving a bit deeper into, which would be like your natal promise, and if, the life that we are living, is it destiny, is it fate, or is it of our own doing? Anyway, before we get too carried away, the full moon in Capricorn, or the full moon is on the Capricorn Cancer axis, or Cancer Capricorn axis rather. We know that Cancer sign, as I like to call it, it's, affairs of the heart, the people, places, things, circumstances that make you feel more safe, protected, seen, nurtured, that gives you that ability to grow from that comfortable heart space and emotional space. And so that's having good people around, or even having a place that you could go to that makes you feel totally protected from the outside world. However, Capricorn, which derives its traits or powers from the 10th house, deals with the world, right? In anatomy, it's your, what is it, it's your kneecaps, right? I think Aquarius is more like the shins, and so the Capricorn is the kneecap or the thigh area, having, well, thighs more as a Sagittarian thing, but the kneecap is hard. And so Capricorn is a hard sign. It's initiating and creating new ways of emotional stability. And so where there is a lack of stability, the Capricorn energy is always trying to find a way to establish that means of stability, whether it has to be through longevity, consistency, being organized or recalibrating how you organize, all of the earth like qualities, or You could get a bit on the negative side where you're stoic, quiet, cold, shrewd, cutthroat. All of those are words to describe the Capricorn energy in action. Um, and so there's a push and pull, right? We know that they're opposing each other, so there's a bit of push and pull. The sun is in Cancer, so that's how we do things, right? We want to do things, um, or we're doing things from a more emotional, intuitive, sensitive, moody position. However, your mood, what you want, how you react and respond to the world around you, is reacting in a more materialistic, hardcore way. So, full moon could either be beautiful for resting, relaxation, or, there could be some tension, some outbursts, some blow ups, some pop outs. Um, and so there's some tension or a push and pull between what we feel and how we need to handle what we're feeling. This could show up as maybe family, Cancer versus Capricorn, which is work. It could be home or feeling safe versus working or doing things to uphold the home. Because again, it's the polar opposite. And so if Cancer is the home, then the opposite would be work. But in the society that we live in, we know that work upholds the home, right? You need to go out and work so you could sustain your home. And so, again, this push and pull between your emotional needs versus how to uphold, those emotional needs, right? Whatever is the thing, the person, the place, the activity, the mentality, the meditation that gets you into that, emotional safe space, then what's the discipline or the practice around it? What's the thing that upholds, um, your emotional security? Again, Cancer, softness versus the discipline. What are the tangible, I don't want to necessarily say difficult things, but discipline does have a certain element of difficulty. And so, what are the difficult things? What are the boundaries? What are the hard, even material, physical things that you have to do in order to upkeep or, continue creating that platform for your soft side, for your emotional side, for your creative side, um, for the place that you want to relax and nurture and take care of yourself. And so I'm just trying to draw, different references and examples of how, again, Sun is Cancer, bringing a spotlight on, you want to feel safe, you want to feel secure, protected. But then the Capricorn Moon, what are the things that you have to do in order to have those safe and soft spots? So some people may, again, at cold, you know, some people may just hide behind work, right? They're just working, working, working because they don't want to deal with the emotions. And, some people may feel like they have to be strong, right? When they actually need support. And so it's one of those ticklish ones where, there's this, I like to call it the trickle down effect, because things happen esoterically in the lighter realms and the higher realms, and then they manifest down into density and happen physically. So before anything happens physically on the physical plane, it happened so above, right? And also internally, simultaneously, like in the mind, in the heart space, before it protrudes outwards. And so that's something to, consider. The full moon, or leading up to the full moon, for me as a observer, a practitioner of astrology, on the full moon, I try to keep it minimal. I try to do the very minimum. in terms of putting out my energy. I try to protect everything that I've been working up to, everything that I've been building up to. I try to rest during those 3 days, rest and relaxation. And so, leading up to the full moon and on the full moon, and maybe a day or two after, that little 3, 4 day period, you know, boundaries, right? Boundaries of just protecting those days, but on a broader sense, because it's Capricorn, asking us where we need more boundaries in our life, more parameters for us to operate in, more, no, I won't do this because I'm allowing myself to do that, right? Full moon in Capricorn, just like, from my personal example, also shows where you may be taking on too much responsibilities or not organizing, right? The best way so that your responsibilities don't outweigh you. And you have, the leeway and the time to relax and indulge and rest and, live a full, fulfilling life and not just working, 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 working. There's a lot of people who are quite ambitious, quite motivated to go out and get it materialistically, Capricorn energy. But what about your emotional life, your emotional space? There are some people who hide, their emotional insecurity and emotional traumas behind, their work and their career. And so that's one of the things that this full moon could be bringing up to us. Uh, where you've been comfortable at avoiding, you know, your emotions, and the flip side, because it's the opposite. So where you're comfortable of avoiding responsibilities as well. And there's also an emphasis of private issues or private themes kind of bleeding out into the public. And so this week is going to be huge. It's like the pressure point of the week. And so we need to make use of this pressure. The Cancer energy needs to be balanced out with the Capricorn energy. Otherwise, too much water could be over overwhelming. However, Capricorn energy, initiating new ways of materialism and being productive and efficient, that could be quite cold without the why. Why am I doing this? Is it because of the family? Is it because of, the people? Is it because of what I could do to humanity? Or is it because I'm trying to shield, you know, some messed up aspect of self? And so the full moon is the catalyst for the rest of the week. Again, as the moon wanes, we gain, right? It's releasing. And some people, there are two different schools. Some people suggest that when the moon is wane, we should also wane, right? And be releasing and letting go of things. However, there's another school of thought that thinks that when the moon is waning, we're gaining. And so we should be open to receiving, what the moon is dispensing at that time. And hopefully we were participating in a positive way. And so as the moon wanes, we could gain in a positive way. And so the moon is going to be full, and then it's going to start to wane as the moon is exiting Capricorn, sliding into Pisces. We're going to be experiencing all of that more along with the Pisces theme. And, you could go to see how it's affecting you in your chart to see, how it's going to be affecting you in your chart. Okay. The next big thing that's happening is Jupiter moving into Leo. And this is going to be huge. Jupiter is one of those forces or influences that gravitates to a particular area for quite some time. And so Jupiter is going to be jumping into Leo, and that's a major shift in and of itself. I mean, we are still in the Cancer season. Sun is going to move into Leo, and Jupiter is going to be in Leo. And so just knowing that fact, we could see some huge things happening in the Leo season, especially in the early degrees of the Leo season. Jupiter has been, exalted in Cancer, which is great. Dignified guest there. However, when you move out of your exaltation and go into the next sign, it's like you were being treated so nicely, and now it's a whole different ball game, right? Jupiter has been bringing expansion, whether good, bad, or indifferent, to the Cancer, depending on what house is in for you, it would affect you differently. But it has to do with family, memory, protection, safety, you know belonging in general, and being safe and having the ability to grow, which constitutes like your private life, right? The people, places, and things in your private life. And so Leo is more public stage, right? Front stage. So again, we could see how things are going to be moving from backstage or private life onto the public arena. And so growth starts to become more visible, noticeable, and public. Cancer was more about protection, and the Leo is about expression and externalization. Again, we know Cancer wants to have emotional stability and foundation, but Leo wants to perform off of that foundation and dance and express. And that's just the natural thing, or the natural progression, right? Like, you don't stay in your house all day. Like, you want to go out and express yourself. We were just talking about, on the full moon, carving out that time for rest, relaxation, indulging, having fun. We just had the music festival and I was there in full swing. So that's a macro, that's the micro, sorry, but on the macro, we do have, that fifth house where we want to go out and express ourselves, have fun, indulge, and, you know, show what we have to offer to the world. And so this week, there's going to be a slight shift of protecting things, keeping things private, keeping things behind closed doors, and there's going to be a shift or magnification of what's happening in the public, right? So one thing you need to ask yourself, especially